Welcome to the Future Reverse. This is a very interesting way to basically reverse a playing card in the center of the deck. And so it's interesting because it's one of those few moves that allows you to reverse a card from the center into the center, which is funny. So usually, if you're familiar with card magic at all, usually you would have to move the card. So you would have to bring the top card to the center. You would have to do that motion. You would reverse it in that same motion, or you bring the bottom card to the center and then reverse it in that same motion, or you would take the center card, reverse it on top or the bottom, and it's all a very interesting sort of thing. But one of the reasons why I like this move is that the card is in the center and it remains in the center as you sort of reverse it, right? And that's sort of why I like it. It's definitely more unique, and one of the things that I like about it is that the card remains in the same position as it started in. So, for example, if you selected a card and it was in the 21st position, it will remain in the 21st position, rather than needing to displace it, and then in the action of displacing it, it would reverse. So that's something that I like, even though I don't really have a use for that. But one thing I'm not the biggest fan about for this move is that it's very pass-like in context, and you'll understand that when I talk a lot about passes, especially like throughout like my entire like YouTube history or whatever you really call it, there's whenever I talk about passes, I'm definitely not the biggest fan of the fact that you have to do this, right? Just for a move, right? And that's definitely not something that I like. It's definitely not something I enjoy, because there's no external reality to sort of justify it. It's just there because the internal reality is we need that to accomplish the effect. But truth is, you sort of don't need that, and that's why I'm not the biggest fan of this pass-like motion, which I say pass-like motion because it's mainly passes that just have this, right? I mean, if we have the Herman pass, we have that too, right? If we have the classic pass, we have that too. If we have the free turn pass, we kind of had that too. So it's basically for every sort of pass, and this move is doing that as well. So that's sort of not something I'm the biggest fan of. So yeah. But yeah, as per usual, I like to go over a bit of history because why not, right? So I believe that the very first move that was remotely similar to the Future Reverse as we know it today was actually something called Would You Believe It by Louis Lamb, which was published back in 1935. And there, he actually has something called the center to top reverse, and it's basically just a future reverse, but rather than doing it from the center to the center, they're actually doing it from the center to the top, which is, again, pretty interesting. But he used it for an effect called the Would You Believe It? It's the same name as the book, so that's the thing. But the effect is basically a card is found and then reversed in the deck, right? That's it's a card is named and then it's spread out, and then hey, look, it's a reverse card, right? It's right. Yeah, I didn't reverse a card there, so that's the thing. But that's something that Louis Lamb does. The other thing that's sort of related to the future reverse is something called the side slip reverse, which is basically, again, it's basically a future reverse. And that was published in Greater Magic by John Northern Hilliard, something along those lines, back in 1938. So again, this is a pretty old sleight, and it predates Marlowe quite a bit. So the name Future Reverse comes from Marlowe, as you would expect, because Marlowe. But Marlowe created something called the Future Reverse, and he published that in a booklet. This booklet was first published back in 1945, so that's a whole 7 years after Greater Magic by John Northern Hilliard, right? So, but this is like where we got the base of the name, right? Future Reverse comes from Marlowe, because Marlowe was basically the big guy, the guy who named everything. So this is where the name of the move comes from. But yeah, other people have published something similar before Marlowe. I mean, it's not really a surprise. A lot of what Marlowe has published did exist before. I think the only difference is that, it comes in a booklet revolving around the entire sort of concept. So that's what sets Marlowe apart from other people. So the future reverse is something that looks like this. I'm just going to do it real quickly. There we go. Right. So this is the future reverse, right? Yay, future reverse, right? So basically the mechanics, you want to start off with a pinky break, and this pinky break can be anywhere in the deck as long as it's in the center. And you're going to get a pinky break below of the card that you want to reverse, right? So for example, I'll just get out a ace of spades real quickly. So I just bounced that card into oblivion. But if I want this card to be reversed, I want my pinky break to be below of the selection. So I have my ace of spades over here, and my pinky break is below it, so it's over here, right? The very next thing I'm going to do is that my right hand is going to come over like any other pass, right? And it's going to approach it in a billow grip. So like the classic pass, the top packet is now in a billow grip, and now the bottom packet is in a dealer's grip, left hand dealer's grip. So again, if you don't know what a billow grip is by now, it's basically just your middle ring and pinky finger are going to contact the front short edge of the deck. Your thumb is going to contact the bottom short edge of the deck, pretty much near the bottom left corner. And then your index is just going to be curled on top of the deck like so. And so this is going to basically separate the deck into two distinct packets. Everything above of the break is going to be in your right hand in a billow grip. Everything below of the break is going to be in a left hand dealer's grip. So those are two distinct packets. The very next thing that you're going to do is that you're going to actually open up the break. Usually if you're opening up the break, you would need to use your ring finger to kick it upwards and then slide it out or whatever, right? But over here, it's a lot simpler because you have two distinct packets. What you can do is that you can basically just, using the fat of your thumb over here, you can basically use this as a hinge to just, hinge it open. So that's how you're going to enlarge the break, right? You just do this, right? Simple as that. And you'll notice that my thumb is actually remaining in the same exact position. So that's sort of a important point, because you don't want your thumb to move around. The very next thing you're going to do is that now with your enlarged break, like so, you're going to want to side jog the card above of the break. So you want to side jog this selection. And how I do that is pretty simple. So now that I have an enlarged break over here, all I need to do is that I just basically contact the face of this card over here with the pad of my middle ring and pinky finger. You obviously don't need all of these fingers, but they're all next to each other, so you might as well do it, right? So you're contacting the face of it. And what this allows you to do is that now when you extend these fingers, right? So they're curled in on the bottom. So now when you extend these fingers, this kicks the card out into a side jog. And it might occasionally bring another card in, but that shouldn't happen. So it's very light on the card. You shouldn't apply pressure basically at all. It's basically just done through friction, right? So if I just have my index finger on the bottom, I just slide it out, right? I basically just kick this card out, right, into a side jog. And that's the only thing that I'm going to do before, setting the deck back down, right? So now that I have, and you don't have to worry about more cards sliding out of it. This would only happen if you're applying too much pressure on the card itself, right? And the fact that you have the deck in a billow grip means that, you can just lightly apply a bit of pressure and then slide the card out, and just one card out, right? Right? So generally, I don't have that problem of sliding too many cards out unless I'm applying too much pressure. So again, you want just a little bit of pressure. So that's all that you need. But because this card is being side jogged and my right hand is on top of the deck in a biddle grip, what this means is that now this basically contacts my right hand pinky, right? It contacts the space between my right hand pinky and my ring finger. And also, it won't work if you're going in a biddle grip from too high. So rather than doing a biddle grip from directly from the top, you sort of want to, sink it downwards to the side, right? And so by having your right hand off to the side in a biddle grip, when I actually do the side jog motion, when I side jog the card, it directly contacts this space in between of my pinky and my ring finger. So now when I do this, it's clipped directly. I don't even need to do any sort of extra motion. So now that you have your card basically clipped in a pinky clip, what you can do is that now you're going to enlarge the break again, right? You're going to enlarge it, and again, you're going to use your thumb as a hinge. And now the only difference is your card is being clipped, and it's being clipped away from the thumb. So you notice that my thumb is not holding the card, and it is important because if I'm holding the card, it's not going to be free. I want this card to be free, so I want to release pressure with my thumb, and that's that, right? Now this card is free. So the moment that I enlarge the break, the moment that I hinge this packet downwards, that's when this card becomes free, and this is when this card will actually slide out, and this card will not stop until it hits your middle ring and pinky finger, right? So I have it clipped, and it slides out and hits this. So now you have this triangle basically. So you have this, right? And this is going to be this is the main part of the sleight. This is the reverse basically, because now all we can do is that you can release the card from a pinky clip, right? So here your right hand is basically moving independently from this packet now. So this is what you have in your left hand without the cover of right hand. So if I have my right hand on top, this is what it would look like. But if I have it removed, this is what it looks like. So now when this card hits this, it's basically going to be grabbed by the middle ring and pinky finger, right? And it's just resting there. And this is basically the only thing that's holding the card out, because if I do this, right, it falls off. So it's just being held there by pure friction, right? But now under the cover of your right hand, so again my right hand is over here for cover, right? Now what I can do is that now if I just flex my middle pinky and ring finger, what I can do is that now it just slaps back on top of the deck. And now to complete the reverse, I basically just close the break, and that's it. That's the effect. That's the future reverse, right? So usually after I'm done the future reverse, what I like to do is that I just like to slide my thumb on the long edge, right, across the long edge, almost like I'm doing a pass, right? So if you watched my pass before, when I do the pass, I do this, right? I do my pass and I slide my thumb across, right? So it's sort of a stylistic choice as well, but it's also like sort of a squaring action, right? So usually when I do a pass, I do it from a spread deck, and then I just do square everything up, right? In sort of the same way, when I drag my thumb along the long edge, I'm basically squaring up the deck for a future reverse, because I'm just done selecting a card, and then I do my future reverse, and then, you know, square everything up, right? And that's sort of the reason why I have my thumb there the whole time, right? And well, obviously my thumb is off to the side for a couple of reasons. I'll get into that a bit later, but it's over here the entire time to one, well, I'll get into it now, to one, hide the break that happens, because if you look at this is what happens when I'm doing the future reverse, right? This opens up and you see this ugly seam along this edge, right, which is kind of gross. And the other reason is that this gives the deck a pivot point, right? This gives it a hinge, right? So now these two packets can move in a V formation, like so, right? So that's basically the reason why I have my thumb there the entire time, right? And so to make my thumb have some sort of purpose throughout the entire move, or at least give it some justification as to why it's there, I just let it drag off, right? And that's basically why I have my thumb there, right? It's to act as a hinge, it's to give the deck some cover, and then lastly, it's to do the squaring action at the end, right? Because imagine if I did the future reverse like this, you would see everything, right? And then, you know, it wouldn't look as nice. So that's why I like having my thumb off to the side, right? The best angle that you can do the future reverse at is directly from the top, right? It's where you can see the entire back design of the deck, right? That's the best angle for the future reverse. So I'm doing the future reverse over here, right? You basically can't see anything. I mean, you can see a bit just from like the shadows, but that's the best angle for the future reverse. So if I'm doing it from, let's just say I'm doing it from like here, for a spectator or whatever, I basically want to dip my hand down until they can only see the back of this deck, right? That's the best angle for the future reverse, right? So take that in mind. So if you're looking at it from here, right? If you're looking at it from this, they're not only going to see this, they're also going to see the front edge. So if I'm doing it from here, right, you can see me doing the future reverse. So again, I want to tilt it down until they can only see the backs. So yeah, take that into account. The other thing that, the other handling tip that you can have for the future reverse is something from Marlowe. But Marlowe says that the top packet should remain completely still. So that's something that Marlowe does, is that this top packet remains completely still, right? So basically, what he's telling you is that this top packet shouldn't move in space, right? So what Marlowe is telling you to do is that now that you have two distinct packets, you have the top packet and the bottom packet separated by the break, this packet shouldn't move, right? The only packet that moves is the bottom packet, right? So you can see that basically everything revolves around my right hand, right? Everything in space revolves around my right hand. It's completely like in the same like sort of space, right? This is completely still. So that's another thing according to Marlowe. But you know, personally, if I'm doing it, you know, I wouldn't mind doing a couple of other things, right? So like setting the deck off to the side or whatever, right? I mean, that's just some Marlowe things. I mean, whether or not you want to listen to Marlowe or not, that's up to you. So I do have a couple of finesses that I want to go over regarding the future reverse. The very first one is from a dribble. Actually, both finesses are from a dribble. I like doing the future reverse from a dribble. So one of the main things about the future reverse is that you do it from a break, right? But when you actually do it from a dribble, you can actually skip this break process, you can skip the opening process, and then the side jogging process, right? So what I mean by this is this, right? You have a card selected, say stop, over here, you're showing it around, right? But instead of getting a break underneath of the selection, what you can do is that as you're going to replace this packet on top of the deck, right, you're going to basically just spread out, relax your middle ring and pinky finger, right, of your left hand. And what this does is that exposes the pad of those fingers. And as it's exposing them, what you can do is that now you can contact the face of this card onto the middle ring and pinky finger, which means that now when you set this packet on top, through pure friction, it's going to side jog this card, right? So have a card selected. Here, as my card is being placed, I'll relax these fingers, and this side jogs this card as I square everything up, right? And this basically just puts the card into into my pinky clip directly. So now I can just do a future reverse, and I'm done, right? So again, have a card selected, spread out, and that's that, right? So that's the first finesse. But the second finesse that you can do is, again, from a dribble, right? So you have a card selected, and again, it's going to be the bottom of your right hand packet, right? It's the Jack of Clubs. And now what you're going to do is that as your right hand is done showing this card, right? It's going back down. What you can do is that you can actually curl in your pinky and your ring finger of your right hand, and now you're going to drag it off to the right. Right, so it's just going to directly pull it off to the right. And it's just this slight movement. The slight movement is enough to get to side jog, right? So this is what's going to happen, right? So it's basically the Kelly bottom placement. That's basically it, right? But now that you have this, what you can do is that you can actually move your pinky around the right exposed corner of this card, right? So you side jog it, and then your pinky moves around it. And then when you're ready, as your right hand approaches this deck, you're basically just going to cock it off to the side, right? You're basically just going to hinge it in advance. So I'm going to do the full motion. You have this, you're going down, side jog, wrap around, and as you're going here, you're approaching it diagonally. So you have this, and just before you contact this long edge, you're going to release pressure with your thumb. So this happens, right? So now you're already in position to do the future reverse even before both hands are completely together, right? So this is you're basically done with 75% of the move even before the hands are together, right? I want to say like 80%. So you have a card selected, side jog, wrap around, bring the hands together, tilt, and just before you contact this, release pressure with your thumb. This bounces and hits the middle ring and pinky finger, and now you can just flex your fingers and then square everything up. So that's ergonomics, right? You're basically doing like most of the move even before your hands are together, which I think is an interesting look at the future reverse, because now you're basically eliminating the first problem that I had with it, which is it's very pass-like in nature, right? If you're doing a pass, if you're doing it naturally, right? Oops, sorry, that wasn't it. It was this, right? Look at how long my hand needs to stay still, right? This is what I don't like about it. But if I did it directly from a dribble, right? So if I did it directly from a dribble, did the finesse, right? I'm done, right? That's basically all I need to do, right? Is that I just poop and I'm done. But if I needed to do the move to its completion, right, from the start to the finish, I would need to get a pinky break, do this, do that, right? Oops, I messed it up, right? So hold up, I would need to do this, right? Come over, right? And then I would need to do the future reverse, right? So this finesse just cuts out a lot of corners and cuts out the fact that, you know, it's very past like in nature, which is my main problem with it. So that's why I sort of like it. So now we can move on to the center to top reverse by Louis Lamb. So again, I already explained it, or I brushed over it in the beginning of the history section. But the center to top reverse by Louis Lamb is basically the same mechanics as the future reverse. The only difference is that now the reverse card goes to the top. So again, I'm going to use my different card over here. Right, so it's the same motions as the regular future reverse, but now instead of flexing my fingers to bring this to this packet over here, what I'm going to do is that I'm basically just going to release pressure with my right hand. So this drops this packet down onto the bottom packet like so, basically like a turnover pass. So if you're not familiar with the turnover pass, I explained it on my Herman pass tutorial, so over there. So I just dropped this packet down, right, on top of the bottom packet, and now what I can do is that I can just flex my fingers, my left middle ring and pinky finger, and this slams this card against the top, like so. So that's basically the center to top reverse by Louis Lamb. Again, it's the same exact thing. The only difference is that I need to drop this packet down and then flex everything. And now I have a card reversed on top. But what's really interesting about this is that you can actually merge it with a turnover action. This move is actually called the Another Fantastic Move, and it's by Ken Simmons. So Ken Simmons published this back in 1981, and he calls it the Cards with a Different Touch. Cards with a Different Touch is the book. I don't know why he does that. But the move itself is Another Fantastic Move. So over here, if you actually do it with a turnover pass, it's going to be the exact same thing as the center to top reverse. You're going to drop everything, but now your left thumb over here is going to go underneath of this deck over here of the deck rather, contact the face of the deck, and it's just going to kick it, right? It's going to kick the deck over, right, 180 degrees. So you have your card that you want to reverse over here, right? Drop this packet, and now curling your thumb and kick everything off to the right, like so. And you basically just did a turnover pass combined with a future reverse. So that's that for the center to top reverse by Louis Lamb. And you also get a bonus of Another Fantastic Move by Ken Simmons. So this is a couple of alternate handlings they can do with the future reverse. So one of the things they can do is actually you can do it from a spread. So you have a card selected, for example, the 3 of spades, right? But as you're squaring it up, you're actually going to, much like the first finesse, relax these fingers, right? So you're going to relax your middle and ring finger over here. And as you close the spread, you're going to contact the selection with the pad of your middle and ring finger, and you're going to slide everything on top of it. And because of friction, this card is going to remain side jogged while the top of these cards are basically sort of messy, right? And now when you're ready, you can just square everything up, right? But because you still have your card withheld in the side jog position through friction with your middle and ring finger. So again, you have this, square everything up, and because you have friction, you're still withholding this card in a side jog. So now you can just do your future reverse, right? And that's something that you can do with through a spread. So that's a future reverse done in a spread. The other thing that you can do with a future reverse is that you can do it from a fan. So for example, actually I'll just use this. So I have a thumb fan, for example. I have my card selected, and so I show the fan like so, and then I insert the selection into the fan. The only difference is that I'm actually not inserting all the way. So I'm actually doing something like this, right? Where I'm exposing the long edge of the card, of the selection, right? It looks like it's more or less in the fan, but I'm exposing a whole lot over here, right? And so I'm showing this, and then I tap the card into the fan, and now this gives me a ledge, right? So when I close the fan, this exposes the upper right corner of the selection. So now I can come over, square everything up, and then do the future reverse, right? And that's a future reverse done in a fan, right? So from the back, this is what it looks like. I have my card selected. Here, instead of placing it like this, right? I'm just doing it like directly, like straight on, like this, right? I'm just gonna place it like so, right? That's basically all I'm doing, right? And I do a one-handed close, and this exposes this selection over here, right? Which now gives me the opportunity to come over in a build grip and then execute a future reverse, right? So that's how you can do it from a fan. The other thing that you can do is that you can actually do the future reverse from a peak, right? So whatever peak that you're doing, right? So you can do this, right? Have a card selected, call it stop, keep a break underneath of it, right? And then do a future reverse, and that's something that you can do, right? Personally, I do it from this, right? So say stop, so the 10 of hearts, right? Keep a break underneath of the selection, do the future reverse, and that's that. So that's another thing that you can do. You can do it from a peak. Now, what's another thing that you can do is that you can actually do it from a cull. So you actually fuse it with a cull, which I taught on my channel a while back. What you can do is that, for example, if I have my selection over here, if I have a card selected, or maybe, you know what, it's way easier to see it from this, right? Where is it? Over here, right? So if I have a sandwich card, for example, I don't know why I'm doing it with this example, but if I have my selection selected above this card or even below of it, if I just cull this card here, I can insert it in between of my two cards or wherever I want, right? I'm just using the two cards for reference, but you can really move this card wherever you want. So now when I close the spread, I just do the exact same thing as my as the spread handling before. I side jog this card, and then I just do my future reverse, right? So I just do my future reverse, if I can get it down, right? So yeah, now I can just move it wherever I want, right? So if I want to reverse it second from bottom, I can do that too. So I have my card, right? I cull it. Here I have it second from bottom over here. I still have it side jogged, and then I just do my future reverse, right? Except it's a bit hard because there's no foundation for it, so this card is going to be very mushy, and then I can do my future reverse, right? So that's something that you can do, right? You can combine it with the cull and then move your selection around and then reverse it. So this is just going to be a little bonus section for those who didn't watch the stream. So this is going to be an edited version exclusive. So that's why I also like doing like an edited version. So in case I forget about anything or I want to expand on anything, well, I have the opportunity to do so. But the reason why I didn't touch on this on stream is because, well, I forgot about it. I know it's, I usually plan my things in advance, but for this time, I guess I just forgot about it. So, you know, you're gonna have to watch the edited version for this. But it's for this different approach to the future reverse. It's basically, it's not that different. It's mainly just the start that's different. Mechanics wise, it is. I mean, it's there's only like one way to do the future reverse, right? But this is just going to be sort of a different handling. And what makes this different is that you can basically, I guess you can basically delay the future reverse. It's not really delaying it, but it's finding the right time to do the future reverse through something that's called a palm. I know. But it's not going to be a classic palm. And it's going to be using either a lateral palm, a pinky clip, or the Chloe's palm that we talked about in the free turn pass by Bruce Servon. So again, I'll just go over the mechanics of the palms real quickly. So I won't go into too much detail with these palms, but I'll go into just some light detail. So over here I have my right hand, and I'll go over the pinky clip first. So if you're not familiar with the pinky clip, you're basically clipping a card in between your pinky and your ring finger around the first knuckle, right over here, right? Because this is where your fingers actually begin to contact each other. If you're over here, it's either just like skin, or you're either like me where there's just nothing. It's just like air. So where you want to clip is like where your flesh, your fingers actually start touching. So over here, right? Because if I clip it by here, well, first off, there's nothing is really clipping the card, right? It can just fall off. But secondly, if I push the card in too much, it'll actually be exposed through the other side, right? So I don't want that to happen, so hence why I want it to be clipped over here. And it doesn't even need to be that much pressure, but you know, it can, you know, have just a little bit of pressure, right? So this is the pinky clip. For a lateral palm, you're basically just going to be contacting the upper corners of the card, like so. And your middle finger over here is just going to be wrapped around the upper left corner, like so. And the fat, or like the base over here of your middle finger is going to be contacting the upper right corner, like so, right? So basically your middle finger does everything, and the long edge goes along the palm of your hand, and then it also crosses over to the bottom of the fat of your thumb over here, right? So this is the position that you should be for a lateral palm, right? And your other fingers are just gently curled in, like so. Right? Nothing difficult. And for a Chloe's palm, again, I'll go over it. So it's basically just a modified pinky clip. So it is a pinky clip like so. And you can either contact the upper right corner with your middle finger, as Bruce Servon does it, or you can also do like the Marlowe thing of contacting it with your index finger, so like so. I personally enjoy the Marlowe handling a lot more because I find myself doing this more than doing this, right? So personally, I like having my index finger contacting it, right? Like so. And then all your fingers just gently curve along along your index finger, right? So they just follow suit, like so. And that's that. And your thumb is just resting near the upper right left corner as well, like so. Right, so all these palms are very soft. I mean, palms in general are very soft, so that should be the main thing that you should be concerned about when it comes to palms. Now, moving on from the palms to the actual future reverse itself. So what this means is that if you have a card in either a pinky clip, a Chloe's palm, a lateral palm, what this means is that when you have the card palmed, you can freely give the deck away. Right? So pretend that you have this card stolen or whatever. I'm not going to get into the mechanics of stealing the card first. That's for another video. But if you have the card stolen anywhere, right, you can ask the spectator to shuffle anywhere, right? Give the decks a couple of cuts, like so, right? And then now you can execute the future reverse. So you're essentially delaying the future reverse, as I mentioned in the beginning, but you're also finding the right time to do it, because now all the heat is away from your hands. Now you can have like, now you're supposedly clean, right? So when you get the cards back, now, assuming that it is somewhat messy, right? So when you get the cards back, now your left hand is in a dealer's grip position, right? Normal standard dealer's grip. Now what you can do is that you can approach the deck, right? Like so. And so this card is basically going to brush against the left middle ring and pinky finger, right? And then you're going to go into a bill grip, like so. And now your left hand can open up this this half of the packet and then execute the future reverse, right? So there's, mechanics wise, it's the exact same. The only thing that's different is that you have to approach the deck and then open up the deck, right? That's the only difference to basically execute the future reverse, right? So that's basically the only difference. But again, right, the heat is off of your hands, right? So now you have the justification to square everything up, and yeah, you basically have the justification that, oh yeah, I need to square everything up, so both my hands are gonna come together, and during that time when your hands are coming together, you execute the future reverse, and then you square everything up, right? So that's how you can delay the future reverse and just sort of find the right time for it, I guess. And so yeah, that's your little bonus section for the future reverse. Hope you enjoy, and yeah, treat it well. So there's a couple of applications that you can do for the future reverse. The first one is obviously, it's in the name, it's a reverse. It's called the future reverse, yay, right? So future reverse, you can have a card reversed in the center of the deck, on top of the deck, or on the bottom of the deck, anywhere in the deck. That's basically one of the strengths of this move, right? But another thing that you can do is that if you actually have a marked card, or if you actually have a stacked deck, that's something that John Northern Hillard actually does, is that he actually has a stacked deck, and then he actually knows exactly where the card that's named at is, and he just reverses it, right? So this can make for a pretty good invisible deck routine, right? Impromptu invisible deck routine. So you can have a marked deck, right? And you have a stack, so you have a marking and you have a stack, and you just riffle through, you find your selection. So pretend like I'm in new deck order, and I know exactly where the King of Hearts is. The King of Hearts is around the 13th position, so you can just riffle off, oh, that's about 13 cards. There, I peek at it to see if it's actually the King of Hearts. It is, and then I just do the future reverse, and then it's like, oh, you could have named any card, and then watch. This card over here is the only card that you selected, right? And you know, that's the card that they named, right? So that's another thing that you can do. It's a cool invisible deck routine that you can do. The other thing is that if you actually use Lewis Lamb's center to top reverse, what you can do is this, right? You can actually do a color change. So for example, you have a five of hearts. You selected the 2 of spades, right? So rather than doing a turnover, here you can just wave your hand on top, and then add the card that was in a 10 formation. So you have your hand in a bill grip, and here you just wave your card on top, right? So that's something you can do with that's the right card. So that's something you can do with the center to top reverse by Louis Lam. But yeah, if you're curious about the future reverse, there's a couple of resources that you can look for. The first one is obviously, well, not obviously, but well, it's so the original future reverse was published as a booklet. Ed Marlowe published a lot of his stuff in booklets. One of the things they can do is they can actually look at Marlowe, the Final Cut. That's the third volume of the Marlowe trilogy. So if you don't know, a lot of people have compiled Marlowe stuff into 3 dense books. The first one is called Revolutionary Card Technique. The second one is called Cardially Yours. So that's how Marlowe signs out. He's like Cardially Yours because he likes cards and he's calls himself a cardician. So that's something. And the third book is called The Final Cut. And the future reverse booklet is the section is in The Final Cut. So that's something you can buy. The other thing is Card Control by Arthur Finley. Arthur Finley published something similar in the Card Control. So if you don't have Card Control in your library, I'm sort of worried because it's a book that everyone should have. So yeah. The other thing is Card College Volume 4 by Roberto Giobbi. So if you don't know who Roberto Giobbi is or who or what Card College is a series of books that basically, encompasses a lot of basic but also like advanced sleight of hand card magic stuff. So you can go ahead and look at Card College. There's 5 volumes. And I highly encourage you to get all of them, but they're a bit more expensive. They're not like a bit more expensive, but for the knowledge it's worth. But for just beginner magicians, I think it's kind of hard to justify that. So, but still, if you want to get serious about magic, I would highly recommend you look into Card College. The other thing is called Lint Pocket Stuff for Close-Up Magicians by John Luca. I actually have that book. It's over there. I believe it is it's actually the I'm not going to say the position because I don't even know where it is, but it's over there. The feature reverse is in there. Just a basic feature reverse. If you're actually familiar with Marlowe, again, he expands a whole bunch on the concept. So yeah, in Lint, that there's just a basic description of the feature reverse over there. If you want like the expansive, the comprehensive version of the feature reverse, you should look for Marlowe, the Final Cut. But if you just want the bare bones essentials, it's over there and it's used as part of an effect. I mean, I know I taught like the feature reverse here, but still, right? You should support magicians and just buy their books because we're broke people for the most part. Maybe I'm just projecting, but yeah. Another thing is Talk About Tricks by Joshua J. It's in volume 2, I believe. So there's something called the Back to the Future Reverse by Joshua Logan. So that's another thing they can go ahead and look at. But yeah, I think that's about it for today. That's about it for the future reverse. It's an interesting move. I like the future reverse. It's not something I use anymore. I mean, I never used it, but it's a move that I'm pretty fond of, I think. So yeah, treat it well. Don't go just doing it wherever or whenever, right? So yeah, take into account the tips that I gave you and some of the application ideas that I had. Very bizarre, but it is like that. Yeah, stay healthy, stay safe, and see you guys next time.